Hello, everyone. I'm Daz, and welcome to American Civil War and UK History podcast. Today's presentation, is in association with Monuments for UK Veterans of the American Civil War. Hashtag the Monumental Project. This presentation is available as a video on our YouTube channel and as a podcast from wherever you get your podcast from. Remember, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you will find all Monuments for UK Veterans of the American Civil War videos on a playlist on American Civil War and UK History's YouTube channel. What a mouthful. And joining me today is friend and co-founder of the charity, which I've mentioned twice already, Monuments for UK Veterans of the American Civil War, Gina Denham. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you, Daz. It is a mouthful, but maybe it's going to be more of a mouthful because of what we're going to talk about in terms of what we've done for the last year. From one might say a harebrained idea, but wow, reflecting back on the last year, I think we've done a lot.
I think we've done very well.
So thank you for being on my side with it.
Yeah, and the same. So for those of you who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, today we are actually celebrating Monuments for UK Veterans of the American Civil War's birthday, which was born on the 14th of January 2022. So 1 year ago today, myself and Gina were talking on the phone about how we could do more for UK veterans of the American Civil War. And we decided to form the Monuments for UK Veterans of the American Civil War. But before we formed the charity, Gina was doing a lot of work, a lot of research into other veterans. And if you cast your minds back to George Denham's dedication video, which you can see on Emerging Civil War's YouTube channel, Gina uttered the words, "to be continued." And so in that period between your great-great-grandfather's dedication, George Denham, what was you doing, and how did we get to the point where you said to yourself, do you know what, we really need to start a charity?
Oh, well, I'll make a long story short, but when I wrote about George Denham and the research that came to light for that, through conversations with Michael Hammerson, who's done an amazing amount of research into UK Civil War veterans, there were so many other people who've been forgotten by history. And I think straight after I said to be continued, I realised there was a veteran buried probably about 200 metres from George Denham called James O'Neill. His story is quite sad. I think we've spoken about him before, but in essence, he died a couple of years before the London branch was formed. He died in Islington Workhouse, and I would imagine, because he didn't have the kind of sense of belonging that the London branch of American Civil War veterans perhaps later provided from 1910 onwards, that all these veterans were passing away in very difficult circumstances, often in poverty. You know, Medal of Honor recipient Maurice Wagg, was in very difficult circumstances in later life. You've got the person we're looking at the moment who served in the Baxter Fire Zouaves, the 72nd Pennsylvania, served at Fredericksburg, Antietam, Gettysburg, all these places, and yet I've got one letter that he provided to the Pension Bureau, when he died in 1905. And again, these people who served the United States were forgotten, and this is very typical of the things that I was finding out in between George Denham's dedication, my saying to be continued, and I think it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, because that's ultimately what led to you and I. I think I kept saying to you, Daz, there's more out there. There's these veterans buried all over the place, all over UK. And it's quite sad, really. I mean, I'm sure none of us want to be forgotten. The essence of who we are, I'm sure we would, in some way, shape or form, some kind act or some legacy to pass forward. And surely their legacy, if you like, was, I don't know, fighting in a foreign war and then coming back.
I mean, I remember I remember the conversation that we had on the phone, sort of, well, not the whole thing, but some of it. And, part of it was
Mm.
the fact that you'd done all this work and you'd compiled all these. I mean, if anyone's been along to the SOSCAN events, they'll see the book that Gina has put together of all of these veterans, and we had nowhere to direct that, you know, and so it was inevitable that this was going to happen, really. Okay, so it did happen,
Mm.
and again we formed on the 14th of January 2022, and one of the first things
Yeah,
you did, Gina, was set up the Just Giving for the first phase of the monument, and again,
yeah.
just explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so at that particular time, whilst we knew we wanted to build a monument, we were kind of putting out ideas and, nothing literally cast in concrete or anything, but we knew what we wanted to do and we wanted to make sure that it was a good fit and that it worked, if you like, with the principles of all the other fraternal organizations in the United States. So, what was so the Women's Relief Corps, the Daughters of the Union Veterans of the Civil War, the Grand Army of the Republic. We wanted to make sure that we were aligned with these kind of philosophies of remembrance in a respectful way. And I think moving forward, so we started the Just Giving page with the idea of funding a monument. And I guess that then led to a chance meeting in April. We'd had a couple of meetings and we'd pulled in like Jay Rarick, for example,
Mhm.
who gave us some pointers in terms of perhaps using the wording from General Order 11, John A. Logan, Commander in Chief, I've always particularly liked the wording of that part of General Order 11. And then we also had Oliver Wendell Holmes wording as well, which obviously we could talk about perhaps in a minute. But I think, yeah, so we did the fundraiser, we started the fundraiser, and we started getting interest. I think what I quite like about it is that we took a leap of faith and others took a leap of faith in what we were doing as well. I know other people have posited the idea of doing fundraising, but my take on it, Daz, like it or not, they've had since 1865 to do this,
Yeah,
and we're now in 2022. I think it was a long time coming, and I'm glad that we did it when we did it, and where we are today, a year later, with the finances, the connections we've got. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm kind of
and
feel as though we've been vindicated.
and again, it's not just about the monument, is it? It's about the getting those headstones as well for all of
No.
those veterans, and doing as many
Mm,
dedications as possible, isn't it? As well.
yeah,
And
definitely.
and
Yeah,
again,
I think. Go on.
sorry, yeah, we've met so many. Again, we've met so many people along the way that have wanted to endorse us and get involved. And again, Jay's one of those people. And then there's Stuart Stephanie, who's designed our monument, which, he was on a podcast with us a little while
Mm.
back. Just tell us quickly about how you met Stuart again.
Yeah, so very quickly. So when I was writing the final chapter of the Spartan that climbed Lookout Mountain, it was me walking in George Denham's footsteps down in Tennessee, and then because I wanted to honour a London branch veteran called James Henry Cleggett, who's the subject of my next book, um, is that I wanted to, on the way back to Chicago from Nashville, I wanted to go to Cook County Cemetery and on behalf of you and I and the rest of the Monumental Project team, honour James Cleggett and say, you're a London branch veteran, we haven't forgotten you. Well, in order to kind of connect us as well, I contacted the local branches of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. So it was Mark Braun, Nick Corp, and Don Sherman, and of course Stuart. And that chance meeting when we did a dedication last April for James H. Cleggett in Cook County Cemetery led to a conversation with myself and Stuart about what we were actually really all about, and your idea and my idea about building the monument. And of course, one thing led to another, and really, and we've now realize that vision now. And I think, my
Mhm.
goodness, the
And
stars aligned,
and again, it's just
because
crazy
I'm
how the
really pleased
guy
with him.
is what he is. Where he creates these masterpieces from bronze, and
Yeah,
it's just so strange that you guys met each other. It's just so strange. It's just like
yeah.
you said, all the stars
Uh,
lined up, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird actually. I mean, I'm quite a spiritual person. I kind of think that I don't think what we're doing is a bad thing. And I kind of feel as though those old veterans, men and women, black or white,
Mhm.
services of land or sea, are all looking over our shoulders. And wherever they may be, their spirit or essence is driving us forward, because lots of things seem to happen in this process that seem to go in the right direction. And I hope that does continue. I hope our reputation builds in the same way that the monument itself grows, and all the other little projects, as you say, getting the headstones for
Mhm.
other veterans, I think, is an important part of what we're doing. That's why it won't just stop, I think, at just getting that monument. It's that we can go on for as long as I've got a
Mhm.
living breath to continue the project. Well, we've got 525 plus veterans that I've identified at the moment that, in my book, that need remembrance. If I
Yeah,
could
of
get a
course.
headstone for everyone, I would. So,
And
yeah.
and along the way, we've had, although we have still got, so the core team of monuments. So when we actually started, we did have a lady called Ray Evans, and I want to say thank you to her. She did help set up a few things for us, didn't she? She set up the link tree,
Yeah.
the Instagram and stuff
Yeah.
like that. She's no longer with us, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, but she's gone on to other things. But we do have another guy called
Mm-hmm.
Don Oakley who joined us. We have Ray Barwick, and we have
Yeah.
Tom,
Tom.
is it? Sorry, yeah,
Tom
Tom,
Sainter.
who
Yeah.
does our accounts
Yeah.
for us, and they're all
Yeah.
part of the
So,
monumental movement and project, and they're all helping us, you know, go forward and reach the goal that we want to go. So I wanted to give a shout out to those guys before we moved on to
yeah,
the
definitely.
next topic. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, that I'm always conscious it isn't you and I doing this. We are doing it as part of a team of people anyway. And anybody who really wants to be an advocate for us, I think ultimately, if the ethos of somebody who joins us is being a good ambassador, trying to make sure that we're inclusive as possible, and it is all about remembrance and honour, honouring people who perhaps have lost that voice through the mists of time, really. So,
Mhm.
yeah, a big shout out to Ray, a big shout out to John, a big shout out to yourself, big shout out to Tom, and also Stuart as well, because Stuart
Mhm.
along the way technically became a committee member as well. And I know
Yes.
that we do have people within, say, for example, SOSCAN,
Yeah.
who support us. And, obviously, it's a shout out to the people that advocate for us in terms of fundraising and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think it's important that we are seen to be, worthy of supporting as well, because a year ago we were an unknown quantity, and I'm
Yeah, of
sure that
course.
there was some trepidation because nobody knew what we were about. But I think, for me, a lot of the last year has been about showing and telling what we do, and I think we've already proved that we've got a good relationship with our friends in the American Embassy in London.
Hmm.
So there's going to be work going on there. We've had funding from the Sons of the Union Veterans of the Civil War. The Women's Relief Corps, as I've mentioned before, they were big benefactors of the London branch of American Civil War veterans. So Daughters of Union Veterans, Women's Relief Corps, and Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, and countless other individuals as well. So, a big shout out to them as well,
Yeah,
I
of course,
guess.
yeah. And again, you mentioned SOSCAN there. So for people that are listening and don't know, Southern Skirmish Association is the oldest reenactment site in the UK that reenacts American Civil War. And Gina came along to a few events last season with her great signs that she's researched from photographs of the London branch of Civil War veterans, with a great saying on it. And the saying is, Gina, sorry, I can't remember. Apologize.
Yeah. yeah, not for ourselves, but for our country,
That's the
which I
one.
quite like. Because so yeah, so that it does. I mean, sometimes it's not for themselves, but their
That's the one.
country as well. So,
I
but
should
there you
read
go.
that because it's on the
Yeah,
back of my t-shirt, but unfortunately I can't turn my head round 300 degrees, 60 degrees. So, but yeah. Um,
yeah,
but again, we had a great response from doing those, or you coming along doing those events. We had a lot of people
mm,
coming up, and what's great about it is it's that direct link, because a lot of people come to reenactments and they can't understand why you're British, why are you doing American Civil War? Well, we're proving that now. There's that link there, and this is why we're doing it,
mm,
and that's what you bring to the Southern Skirmish Association in a lot of people's minds, is that you're that link now that are proving to people that Britain was involved in the American Civil War. We know that anyway, but
yeah.
some people don't know that, and that is
Mm.
what's great about it.
Yeah, I think 100%. So part of my research, because obviously I'm so motivated to find out as much as I can about any Civil War veteran, but I'm also interested to find their living descendants as well. So, say for example, you might recall down in Brighton is a US Civil War veteran who is buried down there called John Heath. He got wounded 13 times while serving down in the Gulf Coast in the American Civil War. Can't remember the vessel that he was on. He came back and was a police officer in Brighton for 20 odd years. And I've been in contact with his great great grandson recently, who'd heard a couple of snippets, very similar to my experience when our family had only heard a little bit about George Denham. John Taplin, who is the subject of the second book that I'm writing about him and James Cleggett on the USS Morning Light. I've contacted some of his descendants as well. I'm just trying to think. It's a very common theme now that I'm now tracking down descendants. So the idea being, Daz, and I know you've already
Mhm.
come along to support the dedications, is that we try to get family members as well to give it a bit more a meaning to it, that there is a living relative of the Civil War veteran that we choose to honour. But as I think I said at the James O'Neill dedication, that if some of these people died with no known family, then I guess just for one day, as we did with James O'Neill, for example, we will be their family for just one day at least in that act of remembrance. So yeah, I think that's what I like about coming along to the Suscan events. So um, because I didn't get involved with Soscan, curiously, but it's um, to be a reenactor, if you like, living historian, but it kind of, they fit together.
Yeah.
It's really, for me, it really, I love seeing the Union and the Confederate camps build at these shows. It really can take me back to, I wonder what my great great grandfather saw during the Civil War. I really, and it's been an education for me. So, but I think I agree with you. The idea that I can go along with the evidence that you and I and the other team members have gathered to go, look, this is what we found out, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we plan to do as we go on. I hope we're not a one trick pony, or one hit wonder, but we live for only a short time. I hope we grow. I hope people more join us as well.
Hmm.
It'd be exciting. I really enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, me too. And again, it's yeah, we're the right people, I think, in the right place at the right time. Like you said, the stars lined up, didn't they? And
Yeah,
going back to what you're saying about James O'Neill. So, for those of you who don't know, um, you can see the dedication. It's on the American Civil War and UK History's YouTube channel. We dedicated James O'Neill in the summer, so that's another thing we did in our first year. Um, Again, that was just
yeah,
another amazing thing to be involved in. And again, it's just great, isn't it, to be able to do this and dedicate these people. Um,
yeah,
Moving on, so here we are again. We're going to go into another year. I know there was some
yeah,
points we did think as well where we was concerned that we wasn't going to reach the target um, of the charity.
yeah.
goal, but we did, didn't we? Because people were kind,
Yeah.
great. But we've got to move to the next stage now, haven't we? So, where is the monument
Yeah.
project as far as financial side of things now, and what's the next stage
Yep.
for that?
Okay, so without giving you the fine detail on the figures, but we raised approximately about £3,600. Expenditure so far has gone into, first of all, getting the materials to craft the kind of what will hopefully be a bronze centerpiece. But as we've already discussed, we're also mindful that we don't want to create something great expense in metal, that could then get stolen. So we're kind of looking at options there. But so far, yeah, I think we've spent approximately about £1,500 so far, to let people know, and that's gone into creating the monument design, or the metal centerpiece, and also some resin copies that we will use on or around the time that monument's built, so people can actually purchase some limited edition examples of that great bit of art that's been created by Stuart, which was obviously inspired by Augustus St Gaudens, who designed the 54th Massachusetts monument. So that's where we are now in terms of that. So we are now that we've had the resin casts, we paid for the materials, etc., to create that. That's been done. We need to now take that to the stage where we're going to cast it in some metal that will be for the monument. But then we've got to use we've got the marble inlay below, which is going to have the wording for John A. Logan. And of course, so that's going to obviously cost money as well. And then, of course, we need the bricks and mortar to set the monument in. Now, so far at the moment, we have got agreement in principle from that cemetery in North London, which we figured was about as good a place as any to put a monument, especially if you've got a cemetery that's willing to support what we're doing anyway. Because it's a hard one. If you think about it, where in the UK would we put a monument? Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think we'd even discussed perhaps American Embassy, but again, that might not have been a good fit. The embassy could have relocated, but I know we're exploring options there. So where we are right now, to cut long the story short, we've raised some money. We've got sufficient funds now in our bank account to start underpinning the project, underpinning the monument idea, because now we can start looking at the granite centerpiece, the marble centerpiece, looking at trying to find somebody who can cast the actual figure part of it, the Stuart's design, in metal. And then, of course, we've got to pay for the labour costs, the material costs to build the monument itself. I mean, I'd love it to think in a year's time we've achieved that. So as of today, or as of this last week, I've created a new Just Giving page and we've kind of speculated that perhaps an additional £2,000 will give us that resilience to really take the project towards that light at the end of the tunnel, I guess. So yeah, that's where we are in a nutshell.
Okay, cool, yeah. And the next 12 months is exciting as well, because we've got some more dedications coming, haven't we? Have we got 3? Maybe.
Yeah.
We might even have more than that yet. We don't know.
Yeah.
I think so far.
Yeah, so we've definitely got.
Because we've got the joint one, which you can tell everyone about in a moment, and then we've got another one, but it's not actually in the.
Yeah, we've got. Yeah, the next one we've got a date to be confirmed is Francis Albemarle McDougall, who was known as Francis Albemarle. He is interred at Bow Cemetery in East London, and he was in Company E of the 111th Pennsylvania Volunteers. So
he's in George's.
The burial marker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was in a different company. So we really know, so we really know what he did. And again, I think he died in 1907 before the London branch were formed. And we've got access to some of his letters. then, so what I tend to do, just to shine some light on how I do this, I found a great researcher in America. And so what I do, and I'll probably put this, I fund it at my own cost, but I will pay the researcher to pull the pension file. So it's kind of a hidden cost, but I'm quite prepared to cover it because they become, if I write a book, then it's good information for a book. But so I've got a great researcher in America, and so we've got Francis Albemarle on the radar, date to be confirmed. So folks, if you are still with us at a podcast, then Francis is definitely somebody we're going to be looking at in the future. And then we've got the two individuals who are the subject of the book, but the other one is Henry Sissons Blackburn, who oddly was born in Lincolnshire, as George Denham was, and oddly served in a Pennsylvania unit, and oddly ended up dying in the same borough as George Denham. How sad is that they never even knew each other? They lived a couple of miles. Wow. But he's the one who served at Gettysburg, Fredericksburg, the Second Bull Run, and at Antietam. So I'm hoping, Daz, he's going to be right up your street. I'm hoping he is.
And wow. Yeah.
You do like Frederick.
Know where he's buried? Where's he buried? Is he the one in Hastings?
He's buried at. No, he's buried at Pancras and Islington Cemetery.
Chris, yeah.
And then of course, then you mentioned Hastings. That John Oakley kindly did that field trip recently.
Yes.
So we've got potentially 3 veterans down there. I mean, that would be a great one to get a headstone for.
Oh, definitely.
Hastings.
Definitely.
I mean, it would be nice to get out of London for a bit.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, these people are buried all over the country. There is potentially even one in my hometown of Folkestone as well, isn't there?
Yes.
You said to me.
And you've just reminded me also of Charles Bogino, who Benton Hart Zerb Cavalry Unit, buried in South Shields. Charles is the friend from the Sons of the Union veterans of the Civil War. I can't remember which tent he belongs to, but you and I have been obviously corresponding with Charles, and I'm hoping that we can support him as being, as his sort of friends on UK soil. I think.
That leads me to another question. What would you say? So obviously Charles has found his own path, but hopefully we can be part of that. Yeah. But what would you say to someone that is, struggling to piece together the jigsaw puzzle of their relative or their great grandfather like yours, or whoever, a veteran of the Civil War that came back to the UK and died here? What would you say to them? Because that's what we're about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think ultimately we should be the hive mind. Our ethos is about sharing information, not just, as I say, raising monuments, but raising awareness too. So if somebody's got a veteran that they're not too sure about, then they can contact us. I will certainly utilise the knowledge that we've already gathered today on our closed Facebook group. As you know, there's a spreadsheet that we've got, which we're constantly updating. So last time, I think it was about 530 veterans. What would I say to somebody? Please contact us. If you've got a veteran or an ancestor you think may have served, we will be proactive in our response, and we will be by your side. We'll take you through the process of getting a headstone from the United States government if you want it. We really want to collaborate with people and work with people who are like-minded, who really want to, showcase the lived experience of these veterans who served in the American Civil War. I don't want to be some kind of dusty, back office, where we keep the information to ourselves. The door's open. Yeah, very much. very much so. So, yeah, so I would say, as much as obviously I know how to access you've got Ancestry, you've got Fold Free, you've got different other ancestral resources, but ultimately utilize us because, this is that kind of community payback a little bit,
Yeah.
that if you're investing in us, whether you're sharing a post, even if you can't donate, but if you're investing in us by being an advocate of what we do, we will help you as well.
Yeah, of course. And hopefully eventually we can have, as we've mentioned in the past, a website, a central database, online monument, as I think you called it at the time. That's a little way in the future yet, because we've got a lot on our plate, but that's the plan, is to have an online database with all of the information that was compiled, and it would all be there for you to access whenever you wanted, and that's the ultimate goal, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the websites, if you like, we've got the domains, because I got them at the beginning of this as well. And I should hasten to add, I paid for that, it didn't come out of any funds. Literally, we're very scrupulous on what our spending is. But if I believe in the principle of doing something, then obviously I'll go ahead with it. So we have got the website, if you like, the domains, etc. But I just need somebody who's got the skill set to create really a web page. Yeah, a web
page. It's got to be right, hasn't it? You want it to be right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm spinning plates most of the time, but I like it. I like spinning plates. Okay, I don't like dropping any either.
What I will say to people is, if you want to donate, again, the new Just Giving link has been put on our Linktree. It is also on our Facebook page, our Instagram page. You can find it all there. American Civil War and UK history is very close partners, obviously, with Monuments for UK Veterans and American Civil War, and I share literally everything they do onto my page as well as we have a Facebook group. Remember as well. So if you want to come and join our Facebook group, please do, because all that information gets shared into there. But before we close out, Gina, you are nearly finished your second book, aren't you? So you've got to give it a little. So how's it going?
Okay, so
is it close?
We're just getting the illustrations done for it at the moment. I'm 96% of the way concluded. I started it back in September. It's about the experiences of James H. Cleggett, who was a landsman on the USS Morning Light, and John Taplin, who was an ordinary seaman. Their experiences were very similar, but also shaped by the colour of their skin. James Cleggett was black, John Taplin was white, and they both found themselves as prisoners of war down in Texas after the capture whilst they were on board the USS Morning Light, and both of them became London branch of American Civil War veteran members. James Cleggett probably knew my grandfather, great-great-grandfather, because James Cleggett was a real founding father of the London branch. We've already mentioned that I went to America to honour him. We know that our friends in the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War getting James a headstone. So the plan is, hopefully, in the coming year, to get a headstone for John Taplin, which I've already started the process, and then collaborate on perhaps a joint dedication. But the book, which will be called The Landsman and the Lieutenant, is literally about their lived experiences from the beginning of the Civil War through the Civil War, and their lives after the Civil War to the point in time that they both passed away, and perhaps their legacy, really, because again, I've been contacting, well, certainly John Taplin's family. So it's nearly published, and all the funds that I get from it that will go towards the monumental project. So, and again, it's perhaps a document that hopefully will last the test of time, that will become a way of remembering those two individuals. There's more books in the pipeline. Book 3 is already, I guess, about quarter way through. That's about all the UK Civil War veterans. But I tend to, I kind of wanted to, because of James Cleggett, I wanted to write a book about him and John Taplin. So please.
That's awesome.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, Yeah, hopefully I reckon mid-February, end of
Mhm.
February, that will be published, so we can bring that along to events as well.
Cool.
So yeah,
And all I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to find us, all you need to do is put in hashtag monumental project and you will find us in
yeah,
Google, because that is
yeah.
the hashtag, and that will bring you right to all of our content. So if you do want to, get involved with us, email us, like Gina said. Always looking for new volunteers. And again, if you want to donate, you can. If you don't, like Gina said, just share a post. That's all we need. We just want to keep pushing the monument movement forward, so we can get the monument and we can keep dedicating these brave individuals that fought and died and never got recognised. So, Gina, thank you very much for joining me. Appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Happy
Daz.
birthday, Monumental Project. Uh, Monuments of UK Veterans of the
Yeah,
American Civil War, our first birthday. Happy birthday, everyone.
yeah. Happy to us.
Yeah, there you go.
Happy to it.
Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you, Daz.